and thank you for joining me for another episode of YQG in Bloom. My name is Tracy Martins, and I want to remind everybody to subscribe to my podcast so that you can get notifications on any of my upcoming ones. Today I am with Adriana Mastronardi, and you are a nutrition and fitness coach, as well as a high school teacher, correct?
Yes.
You do a little bit of everything. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm super excited for this.
Now, I've been watching your Instagram, and I mean, you have so much going on. Like, you are right on the money when it comes to nutrition and fitness, and obviously that didn't just come yesterday. How was your journey towards that?
You know, I love that question. I was just thinking about it today. I was doing some cardio at the gym and listening to like motivational reels as I was going through it. And there was Pitbull actually that said, he was just saying anything that comes quick, like leaves even quicker. And so I loved that specific thing because this hasn't been an overnight thing for me. So I've always sort of been into fitness. I've always been curious about it. But the last, I would say 10 years, I've gotten more serious about taking my health and putting myself first, like making that a priority. And so it hasn't come with little struggle for sure, right? Because as you start to adopt new habits and learn new things and strive to feel better, you're almost changing kind of who you are in a sense, because you're trying all of these new things. And so, you know, it was after all of my children were born is when I really started to figure out again, like who I was as a person, which led me down the road of making time for myself, picking fitness, and then nutrition came along. So it all just sort of snowballed. It was like a snowball effect, and then led me to where I am now. And I know that's sort of a general overview, but it's been a process. It hasn't been, you know, I thought of it last week and here I am and I'm doing the thing.
I did want to ask you, what came first, the fitness or the healthy eating?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I would say the fitness came first, the movement, because I would guess that most people think they eat healthy, or you don't think so? You're saying no.
Most of us want to believe that we eat healthy, but chances are, unless you've already been to a trainer or a coach or watched all the videos,
correct,
we're doing something wrong.
Okay, so I thought I was eating relatively healthy, and so I knew that I wanted to do a little bit more. I wanted to really feel strong. So I joined a small group fitness place that really helped me fall in love with movement. And I've always been active. Like, I've always exercised. I've always done cardio, lifted some weights, but I truly didn't know how to incorporate fitness into my life for the goals that I had. So I would go to the gym and randomly do things. So, you know, you see a rack of dumbbells and you pick up a couple, you do some bicep curls, tricep extensions, and then you're like, okay, great, I did my workout, and then you go and you do 45 minutes of cardio. So that was really like what my fitness routine was until I started to understand what strength training was and how that can change the way my body looks. So that came first.
Okay.
And then when I started to feel strong, like, you can feel the strength building. You can feel how it's easier for you to pick things up, how, you know, you can carry the grocery bags into the house 3 or 4 at a time on each hand, and you can just see the improvements over time. But I could feel it, but I couldn't see it on my body, and I wanted to see it. So I knew the next step was nutrition. I needed to be able to reveal the muscle that was underneath.
For sure.
Yeah, and I was never a big person, but I still had a layer of fat or a layer of whatever it was on top that wouldn't allow me to see the strength, or at least visually see it. And that's really also what I wanted, in addition to feeling strong.
So did you go to a nutrition coach yourself?
I did. So I hired a coach who could teach me how to eat for the way that I moved and the way that I wanted to feel. And it really boiled down to, I wasn't eating enough protein. You know, I was eating too much on the other end, too many fats, too many carbs, and not that either one of those are inherently bad, but in terms of the right combination, I was sort of out of alignment. So if I want to build and maintain muscle, I need lots of protein for that, and more so than you think you need. So I hired a coach to show me and make me aware and hold me accountable to what I said, that I wanted.
Like I had told you, I wanted to go, I don't want to go 100% vegan, but I do want to cut down on some meat, although you'd never know it lately. But you were explaining how I needed to make sure I got the extra protein, which a lot of people don't think of. Vegan's healthy, so you're going to be doing it right. And that's not the case. But also when you're doing strength training, when you see things on TV and online, it's all about the carbs and all about the fats. And you don't hear too much about the protein, which is your nutrition that's going to hold you off the longest.
Yeah, protein keeps you fuller longer. It takes a little bit more energy for your body to digest it. So if you take in 100 grams of protein, your body's using maybe 85 grams of that, and 15 grams is being used up for the digestive process. So it's almost like the best bang for your buck kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I remember during our conversation, we just talked about awareness. Remember that? Like we just talked about what is it that you're eating? Write it down, and then try to figure out where the protein source is coming from. And I think when we discussed it, I think you had peanut butter in your breakfast. Was it peanut butter?
No, it was oatmeal, toast, and I had butter? Fruit.
Oh, there wasn't peanut butter.
Okay.
No. Okay, I don't remember. But I think I asked you where the protein was, and you said the oatmeal. And there's probably a little bit of protein in oatmeal, but it's not a main protein source. So I think the first thing is just becoming aware of what you're eating. It really boils down to what works for you. What can you sustain? If you like to eat beef, it's a little bit higher in fat. So if if you're following a macro-based lifestyle or a macro-based nutrition plan and you have just a certain amount of fat, you might not be able to have as much beef as you thought you could. So you might have to pair that with a lower fat option like chicken, or if you're into seafood, shrimp, things like that, right? So you kind of have to play around with it. So nothing is inherently bad, but it's really what works for you. So if a client comes to me and says, I want to be vegan, or I'm keto, or this or that, we kind of just take a look at them as a whole and what can they sustain long term. But that's the goal. The goal is for a client to work with me, but then when they leave me, they can continue the habits that we built together and not just a one and done kind of thing.
Now, when Adriana is saying client, she is also a nutrition and fitness coach, and you just got your macro mentorship certificate?
Yeah, so that's my second nutrition coaching certification. Okay. So I did my first one 3 years ago, and I had to mentor 2 people, or I had to take on 2 clients and run them through a nutrition program. So it wasn't just an online test where you said, oh, now you're a nutrition coach and you've got it. I actually had to prove that I could work with people and that I could get them results. So that's what I did in my first certification. And then I wanted just to it's like I'm a teacher by trade, and we thrive off of continuous education. And so in order to keep up and keep learning, you have to continue to invest in yourself. And so I invested in this new program, Macro Mentorship, and this one really focused on metabolic disorders. So particularly for women, so hypothyroidism, PCOS, diabetes, metabolic disorders where your metabolism has slowed down, if you're breastfeeding. So there's a lot of different ways you can work with clients that come in that are not just Gen Pop clients who say, I want fat loss. There's other things at play that you have to consider. So it was just another way to look at working with women specifically. Yeah.
That's wonderful, because people don't understand that you can throw a diet out there or say, okay, you should eat this, this, and this, and it's going to make you healthy and help you lose weight. Because my husband and I went on a weight loss journey. Obviously, I failed, but no, I didn't fail. Menopause hit.
Yeah.
But he was losing a lot of weight way faster than me, and it was very frustrating.
I know, but isn't that the case? They always do that.
Always do
My
that.
husband too, yeah.
The women, we have a harder time, and everybody's like, but you should be. You're always on the go. You should be losing weight. And I'm like, but this is what my body's used to. If I stop all the movement of taking the dog for the walk or doing the shopping or even just around the house, I see a weight gain because that's just general movement. I'm getting 12,000 steps in a day, but that's just normal for me. So it doesn't help. Now, does the macro program also help with women in menopause?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not that we don't focus on that, because sometimes, and I'm not saying that this is like in your case, the circumstance, but sometimes women who are so frustrated will say, well, I'm in menopause or it's my hormones, automatically dismissing maybe any other habits.
Oh, mine are all bad habits
actually,
too.
that they're actually taking part in, right? So before we go to menopause or your hormones are the issue, let's like take a step back and look at everything that you're doing. So have you done everything to support the goals that you want and you're frustrated? Or are you just saying, I'm giving up kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, no, I'm just talking menopause for people in general. Me, I have a self-control issue where I like to talk about what I need to do. I know what I need to do, and it's just a matter of doing it. And mine is also portion control. And like you had said this morning in your stories when your daughter made these chocolate chip cookies, if it's in my house, I'm going to eat it. And I'm going to eat it until it's gone.
Till it's gone, yeah. But that's almost human nature. Like the house smelled intoxicating yesterday. Chewy chocolate chip cookies, right? White and dark chocolate chips. And so like last night I had a couple and I was going to reach for another one. And then I stopped myself and I thought, they are super yummy, but the satisfaction I get from eating them lasts 10 seconds. So when I eat it really fast, it's gone. And then I want that feeling again. I want that taste in my mouth, but it's just 10 seconds, right? That's all it really is. I'm not hungry. I'm not eating them because I'm hungry. I'm eating them really just out of, I need immediate satisfaction. So I'm trying to practice, and it's almost like a muscle you have to build, like the muscle of delayed gratification.
And the thing is with us growing up, like I'm going to be 54, you were always taught, like you had your dinner and then you had dessert. So I've noticed, and it's the hardest thing to try and stop because this has been ingrained for 50 some odd years, that after dinner, I crave sweets. And it's like, my husband will say, aren't you full? I'm like, I am, but my body is saying I need something sweet in it. So I've been trying to find sweets that will actually not make me.
Are they? Do those exist? If they do, let me know. But it's actually, I love that you just said that. So for 54 years, you said, right? You've developed, or you had a habit of eating sweets after dinner. So that's really a habit. So now you have to start thinking, what habit can I replace that with? So maybe now after dinner, you and your husband go for a 15-minute walk, and that's your new habit instead of reaching for something sweet. Or you replace it with something else that is more in alignment with how you want to feel instead of just continuing something that you've always done.
Exactly. And I know that because I also quit smoking about 10 years ago. But I worked with a doctor who specialized in smoking, and he said it's one of the hardest habits to break because you taking a cigarette and putting it towards your mouth mimics food. So that's why a lot of times people, when they quit smoking, they turn to food, which was also another one of my things. But I've been listening to your podcast, A Cup of Dri, and that's on Spotify. It's actually A Cup of Dri Fitness Thoughts. And I loved the last one that I watched. I have to look it up here because I wrote it down as soon as I watched it. The struggle is real. That one really spoke to me. And it's exactly what we were talking about habits and changing the habits, but not beating yourself up if you don't get it right, which is the worst thing because I just find a lot of times when you're dealing with fitness coaches or nutritional coaches and they're saying, okay, here's your diet, do it. And it's not that simple
Right,
because you have to kind of find the happy medium. And I love how you put that.
Yeah, thank you. So the whole podcast was about, I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, or 4:50, my alarm goes off. And it's never easy to get up it's like the middle of the night almost, but not really. But it's dark outside. Everyone in your house is sleeping. It's not easy to get out of bed, especially in the winter when it's pitch black. But it's never easy to get out of bed in the morning, no matter how you put it or how you try to rationalize it. It's always a struggle. But it's about pushing through that struggle and not using that as an excuse. Oh, it's too early. I'm not a morning person. I can't do it. I would not say that I was ever a morning person, but that's when I can get it in. So that's when I have to do it. I can't do it after work. I can, but I don't want to. I'm tired. I want to get on with my day. I want to go home to my family. So it's the thoughts that you tell yourself about what you're going through that either inhibit you or usually inhibit you. And it's like you have to develop the muscle to say, I hear you. I feel uncomfortable right now, but I'm just going to keep moving. I'm going to do things that help me start this new habit that I want. So like I said in the podcast, I set out my clothes the night before. So they're there, I don't have to think about it. I put my water on my nightstand, so it's there to drink. And all I have to do is get up and go right to the washroom, and then I'm there. And really, once I get into my car and I'm on the way to the gym, those thoughts of how annoying this is, how hard it is, are gone. They're gone. So it's momentary, uncomfortable feeling for an hour and a half later of like a euphoric feeling, like truly feeling so good.
Now, you were saying like the habit of getting up early and getting everything ready. I always wanted to work out in the morning, and we used to go for walks in that, but it's been a long time since we've done that. A lot of people find that they get tired after a workout.
Okay.
When does that stop and it turns into energy? Because I think a lot of people will stop doing it. They want to go to the gym in the morning and start off their day. They hear about everybody saying endorphins, but that's not always the case when you first start off. You're exhausted. You're pooped out because your body's doing something it's not used to doing.
Yeah, well, okay, so getting up early probably means you're going to have to go to bed a little bit earlier. You can't get up at 5 in the morning and go to bed at midnight. That's not going to cut it. Eventually it's going to catch up to you, and I might be able to do it for a couple of days, but by the third day, I'm exhausted, mentally and physically. So it's about changing, that one habit, but also how can you support it in other areas of your life? So going to sleep earlier, and also nutrition. So after my workout, I have something to eat. I'm fueling my body so that I don't crash. I'm helping to replenish maybe what was lost by sweat or what was lost in terms of the effort that I'm putting forth. So how can I help my muscles fuel themselves, because I've just worked them and they need that energy to grow and to provide me the strength that I need. So it's not just about the one change that you're making. How do you support that change in other areas of your life? So yeah, you are going to be tired probably at the beginning because it's something new, but you spoke to this earlier. It's not an all or nothing approach. So maybe you're not, say you want to start an early morning habit, maybe you're not doing it 5 days a week at the beginning. Maybe it's every Monday and Wednesday to start, and you see how you feel. And then maybe you try that for a few weeks, and then the next week it's Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. And then I think a momentum develops, right? If you don't start, you never get started. So you have to start somewhere, and then you build from there. So if people go into things with an all or nothing mentality, you're destined to disappoint yourself. In anything, not just in health and fitness, in anything that you do, because you can't be perfect all the time.
Well, it's true. And that's the thing, is we've always been taught it's an all or nothing thing when it comes to health, wellness, fitness, nutrition. And I like that you're talking about that it's okay to build up and it's okay to start to eat properly, but you don't have to go all in right away. Like, give your body a chance to get used to it.
Absolutely. And that's how I work with clients. So it's not, here's your program, figure it out. It's like, what's one small change we can make? Let's talk about steps. Let's just get that to go up. So if you're at 5,000 steps right now on average, let's aim for 7, not 5 to 10. Let's start small, because those are big changes. You know, you have to do steps, you have to get to sleep, you have to watch and weigh your food, you have to move. There's a lot of things. And if you're not used to any of them, it's really overwhelming. A lot of the work does come at the beginning, but it's just mindset, changing your way of thinking and approaching it little by little.
Now, do you work with people in person, or is it on Zoom? Is it one-on-one in a group?
It's not in person.
Okay.
It's all through like a Zoom approach. So the clients that I work with, I meet with them one-on-one every week. There's a scheduled time that we meet for 15 to 20 minutes.
Okay.
And it's like a check-in. So they send me, I have a check-in format, and they send me like, how are you feeling? Where's your weight? What are your measurements like? I ask them to give me pictures. So they are in, you know, shorts and a sports bra. So most of the people that I'm working with are women. I have worked with a couple men, but right now most of them are women, or a bikini or some sort of bathing suit, because you want to see the changes. You don't want to come in a picture with long tights and a big t-shirt, because you can't see any changes in your body.
The tights do somewhat tuck it in too.
Somewhat, but it right, exactly. Yeah. They do, right? So you want shorts, you want a sports bra or a bathing suit top, and that's how you want to check in every week. And what I'm finding is that clients forget where they started. So when they get frustrated in their journey, they're like, oh, I haven't lost any weight this week, or 2 weeks, I haven't lost any weight, what's going on? And then I bring them back. Well, okay, let's look at your pictures. You might not have lost weight on the scale, but your waist went down 1/2 inch. That's a big thing.
Well, people forget that muscle is weight.
That as well, especially if you're first starting out, the amount of muscle that you can put on is a lot more than an experienced person.
Yeah, you're not, and that's hard, because everybody has a scale and everybody weighs themselves. And then to find out that, oh, shoot, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, but
and nothing is
going
moving
up,
yeah.
or it's staying the same.
Yeah.
And then people get frustrated and say, oh, screw this, I'm going for KFC or something.
That's when they give up. I actually saw, my husband shared this meme with me. Somebody was holding a pound of fat and a pound of water. Okay, so it was a visual, and they said your scale went up a pound the next day, and they're like, you think it's this, you think it's a pound of fat, but it's not, it's just water. And your weight can fluctuate daily for so many reasons other than the fact that you've gained fat. Now, if in 2 weeks your weight has stayed consistent at that, then maybe you can say, okay, that was fat. But if you go out for dinner with friends and the next morning the scale is up, that's not fat. Or if you've had a really heavy leg workout, the next day my weight was up 1.5 pounds today, because I worked my legs really, really hard yesterday. And so I know now, because I'm aware of it, that number has significance, but not as much as I used to put on it.
You learn this with going to the doctor. What's the first thing they usually tell you? Get on the scale. And it's very disheartening when you're wearing all your clothes.
Right, and your shoes.
In the middle of the day, and you've just eaten lunch. Yeah. So I've learned that if I'm going to weigh myself, I weigh myself first thing in the morning. After I woke up, I've gone to the bathroom. You weigh yourself. That is your true thing. So they'll say, get on the scale. It's like, no, this is how much I weigh. Yeah, you're not weighing me with all that, because it's just going to make me cry.
Yeah. I always ask, shoes on or shoes off, because that's a couple pounds there.
Well, even jeans, you're looking at it. If you've eaten, had a coffee, drank some water. I really like to weigh myself before I go to bed.
Okay.
And then weigh yourself in the morning.
Right.
And you wouldn't believe the difference, how much you actually lose during the night. And
yeah, it could be like 3 to 4 pounds.
It really is.
Yeah, I do the same thing. I weigh myself in the morning after I've used the washroom, naked.
Yeah.
Here we go. Tell me how much, where I'm at this morning, you know. But there's so many factors about why the scale moves up and down. And that's actually, I ask my clients to weigh themselves every day.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are scared because they're not used to looking at that number and having it face them directly, you know, stare them right in the face. So it's a little bit of something I want them to get over and be aware of as well, right? Don't pretend that the problem you want to go away doesn't exist. Let's face it head on and move through it together.
It's hard, but it's also nice when you understand it. Like I've also learned, don't weigh yourself after you've worked out because you might feel, ooh, I burned some, but you drank a lot of water while you were doing that.
Exactly. And your muscles are a little bit swollen. They're taking that water up. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, which is funny because if you don't weigh yourself in the morning, oh, I'll weigh myself after I get out of the shower. I just went to the gym. It's going to be great. And then they look and it's like, no, that didn't really work out. I get it. It's a matter of balance and it's really hard, but it's great to have somebody that is understanding the entire picture of it. You had this episode, why people wait to, it was something about waiting
at the
beginning. And
why are you waiting?
Like that was really good because you always hear people, I'm going to wait until Monday.
Right.
I'm going to, not during the holidays. And what you were saying was 100% right. But I also did have a doctor that said, if you think you're going to lose weight, start doing it right before Christmas, you're going to fail. He said, first of all, because there's way too much distraction and you haven't formed enough of the habits.
I understand that. Like you can't start right before Christmas.
Yes.
Absolutely. But you shouldn't use that as an excuse either. There are so many more temptations before holidays or before big events. But why not go into it with even just if it's awareness, not the expectation that you're going to lose weight over the holidays, because that rarely happens unless you're someone who's training for a specific event that's happening, you're laser focused. But if it's just, somebody who generally wants to lose weight, it's really hard to do that over the holidays. But if you can just go into the holiday being aware of what you're doing, that might stop you a little bit from overindulging in things that, you're used to doing, or taking part in behaviors that you're used to doing. It might just have you take a step back and question it. That's really sometimes what happens if I start with a client before Christmas. It's like, don't have any expectation that you're going to lose weight over this holiday, but maybe just take note of how you might make decisions differently had you not started this process before the holiday. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, because then you can always say, you can still have the cake, the cookies, the food and all that, but portion control.
Right. So
enjoy it all, just not as much.
Right. So maybe, if you would have had 3 glasses of wine at dinner, maybe this year you're only having 2 or maybe 1. So that's a win too, or instead of having every single piece of dessert that's there, maybe you have a taste of all of it and not a piece of cheesecake, a piece of pumpkin pie, 3 cookies, what you might have been used to. Pick your favorite. So, or even just going in with a plan. That's also really helpful. Like if you're going to dinner or if you're going to a family event, what's your plan? If you know what they're serving, what are you hoping to do? And even just having that thought beforehand also helps you navigate different situations.
That is amazing advice. But really like that.
But I love that you said that because a lot of people wait till the first of the year, till the Monday. And I used to be that person too.
But especially if you had doctors or trainers from back in the day that would say, okay, don't start on a Friday because you're going to fail.
Have the weekend.
Don't do it on before Christmas or before Halloween because you're going to fail. And I mean, I had the doctor that said that to me too when it came to quitting smoking. And finally I said, okay, it's just enough. So this is
right. I'm going to do it when I want to do it. But so that mindset will tell you that, okay, if you have a bad day, so you have a bad day on a Wednesday, that mindset is saying, okay, now let's just wait till next Monday to start again, instead of Thursday just getting right back on track. So,
but it's okay if you've had a bad day on Wednesday and you want to enjoy that cheesecake or that extra glass of wine, go for it. Just don't feel guilty about it and start again
the next day. You're like, okay, what makes me feel good? Water, steps, eating mindfully, and then just get right back on track and don't, like you said, beat yourself up about it because it happens. It happens to everybody. You can't think that you're an anomaly.
But I mean, you're almost led to believe that the coaches are perfect and that they never have an off day and they know I'm just going to go to the gym and I'm going to work out my frustration and I'm going to be okay. It's nice to hear that, you know what? my daughter made 3 cookies. I'm going to eat 3 of them.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to feel bad about it. I'm going to stop before the 4th.
Right.
But it's okay to, eat your feelings every once in a while. It helps. But then, like you said,
it is, but
go
then you
for a
have
walk
to be
or
you have to
mindful.
be able to practice, right? That muscle of not really eating your feelings in a sense, right? We all have those moments.
But if you do, it's okay.
100%. If you do, it's okay. And then with each situation, you learn. You think, okay, if I don't like the way I feel now, I don't feel guilty about it, but how could I have made choices differently? And then maybe next time you'll make those choices, or you might not. But eventually you'll get to a point where you're making the choices you want to. And then the other thing is, don't punish yourself. So don't beat yourself up, don't feel guilty. Then don't punish yourself by saying, I'm going to fast all day today, or I'm going to go and do hours and hours of cardio to get rid of what I just did, because that's a punishment in itself. And that just creates this cycle of, almost like binging and then kind of pulling back, binging and pulling back. So that's dangerous too.
Yeah, for sure. Now, how do you feel about intermittent fasting?
I'm not for or against it. I think if people use it to limit their calorie intake, so say you stop eating at 8 p.m. and then you start eating again at noon, but between noon and 8 p.m. you eat more calories than you actually burn. If you're using it to lose weight and that's the sort of habit that you take on each day where you're eating more than you're actually burning, the intermittent fasting is doing nothing for you. So it's like, I intermittent fast, I should lose weight. So if clients or if people use intermittent fasting as a way for fat loss, they can't overconsume their calories during their feeding window.
I've run into that problem, and if I'm intermittent fasting, I'm darn hungry, so I'm going to eat more than what I probably normally would if I had a breakfast.
Right, and that's the problem too. Some people get hangry, and so then they're ready to eat, and then they don't have something prepared. So that's the other thing, being prepared. So if you come out of your fast with something prepared, it's a lot easier than trying to make a meal right away, because then things are more tempting because your reasoning goes out the window. Like the part of your brain that should be reasoning you through this is like, it's like flipping your lid. Your lid is flipped, you have no more reason, you just want to eat. And so that's the problem with it too. So there's definitely benefits in terms of digestion, but I don't think it's like the be all and end all of fat loss or a fat loss tool in that sense.
Now, would something like that work, say once or twice a week, just to give your body a break, or is it something that should be consistent? Pick a lane, pick a diet, and stick with it.
I think it's just all individual. Yeah. So what works for you? If that works for you, then great. That's what you should use. It's not, like I said, it's not a bad thing or a good thing, but it's not the answer.
Yeah,
it's not the answer. It's what fits into your lifestyle and what makes sense for you. But if you're working out really early in the morning, it's hard to intermittent fast till past lunch, because you need to fuel your body.
Oh, for sure.
Because of the energy that you've exerted, and you want to recover. It's about recovery as well. So you just have to be careful.
I know we had talked earlier about going to the gym, and you don't have to go every day. How often do you go to the gym?
I do 4 days a week. So 2 upper body exercises and 2 lower body exercises.
But then you're not just slouching around on the couch the rest of the other 3 days. You are still doing your steps.
I'm still making steps a priority. So I was actually getting a little laxed on steps, and I wasn't being mindful of them. So my average was around 6,000 or 7,000. And I read once it was a study, or I don't remember where I read it, but they were talking about, when you fill out the forms that say, are you sedentary? Are you moderately active, very active? Those are dependent on the number of steps. So if you are like below 5,000 steps a day, you should consider yourself sedentary, even though you might have gotten up and done a workout.
Okay.
So I can work out in the morning, but if I sit in a chair all day and I don't move, that's still not healthy. So making sure that you're getting movement in throughout the day. I have a stand-up desk now, so I stand up for majority of the day. It's just almost normal for me to do that.
Okay.
I don't know if that doesn't really add to my steps, but it's something different than just sitting and having my body seated in a chair all day. But I'm trying to make sure that I'm getting 8,000 to 10,000 steps a day, and it does really make a difference. It makes a big difference. So it's more important, it's so much more important than people think it is. And it's not because of weight loss, it's just about general health. Getting outside or moving your body in general always makes you feel better.
It honestly does. And I was just looking while you were saying that. I was like,
where are we at? What do you got?
I've only got like 3,200 steps. And that's doing people got to remember that.
What time is it? It's only noon.
It's only noon, but you got to remember I've also climbed stairs. So there's a little bit of a workout going on, but walking doesn't have to be boring. I do walk my dog, and I used to hate doing it. In fact, for a long time, the dogs never got walked because it was so boring until I discovered I'm going to listen to a podcast.
Yes.
And I just only put the one ear in so I can hear so
the traffic or something.
Yeah, get hit by a car or somebody come up behind us, because people don't realize you shouldn't do that with dogs. But listening to the podcast, it's enjoyable. I look forward to it because it's like, okay, I can catch part 2 or another one of your podcasts, or if there's longer podcasts, I can listen to the second part of it.
Yeah, and you can involve your family. We do family walks. Usually I'll grab the kids and get them to do some walking. My husband and I have been walking a little bit in the evening. And it's not just even walking, it's like playing a game of 21 with my son outside. It's called non-exercise activity. So it's not intentional exercise where you're on a treadmill or you're going for a run or you're doing weights. It's just general movement throughout the day. How can you get more of it? So when I go to the gym in the morning, I park. So the parking lot has like 2 sections. I park in the other section. So I'm walking a little bit more. I'm not looking for the closest spot to the gym or the closest spot to the mall. It makes a difference. Or even, if you work at home, like every 10 minutes, get up and do a lap of your house.
Yeah.
Go up and down your stairs a couple times and then go back and sit down.
Yeah, like realize that even the littlest things, like I got these 3,200 steps from going up and down the stairs to do some laundry, to vacuum upstairs and downstairs and get ready for today's podcast. And we have a hill that my dog, I walk her on first thing at 7 o'clock in the morning. So these are steps just from doing everyday normal stuff. So if you just add in a little extra on top of it, it's really not that hard to get to.
Yeah, it's just 10 minutes. Again, doesn't have an all or nothing, right? It doesn't have to be 45-minute walk. It's just 10 minutes up and down the road.
Yeah.
If that's all you can get. And then, like I said, you start to feel better, you want to do more. And that's sort of how it builds upon each other.
The weather also
and the weather,
helps,
for sure, all of those things. But you know what? My grandmother is going to be 94 this year. She's in a nursing home now, but she used to live on her own until she was 90, and she would walk every day. And when she couldn't walk outside because it was snowing or raining, she would walk in a room that was maybe triple this length, so like 30 feet long. In a circle for an hour to get her steps in. And so when I think of being lazy, or I think of I don't feel like doing it, I think of her getting up, going in her basement, and just walking. She's not listening to podcasts. She's not doing those things.
But it's
she's
a habit.
She's just walking because she knows it's good for her. And that's how she was able to tend to her garden and keep up with us. Like, she was mowing her lawn. I mean, in a rider, but still at 90 years old. Like, that's why I do this. Like, I want to be that age and still be able to keep up with everybody and not have trouble getting out of my chair, not have trouble picking up, hopefully, a grandchild who weighs 30 pounds. Like, it's both. Like, I want to be healthy when I'm older, and I want to look good and feel good now as well. But, when I think of being lazy or having excuses, I think of her, because she's like, no bullshit kind of person. She's like, get it done, stop complaining, enough.
I have two neighbors, and they're both in their 80s. And the one gentleman, he rides his bike, and he rides it just slowly, but he goes around the park a few times. He goes around the neighborhood, and then he sits at the bench for a bit. And I mean, he has bad knees, so that's why he rides the bike instead of walking.
Yeah.
And then I have another lady, neighbor, that she's in her 80s, and she used to be out walking the dog twice a day. you know, just very slowly for her movement, just to get out. And it's like, okay, if they can do that, then I can at least take my dog to the park without bitching about it.
Right. But you know, and then the other side of it is we all have those days, right? We all have, but it's just like the only way out is through, right? The only way out is to push through what's trying to stop you, because it's all just thoughts in our heads. And it's hard for me to remember that too, for sure. It's all, you know, but that's really what it's about.
Oh, especially you're like me. You're the people pleaser, and you're the mom, and you got the job and the family and that. And it's you just have to figure out that you count too.
That's big.
Yeah,
That's big. And I feel like I'm gonna be specific about women in general. You know, that's we want to be everything to everybody, and then we forget about ourselves. And I think that was the hardest part, to kind of put myself first and not feel guilty about it, or feel like I was disappointing people, or that people were not going to, they were going to judge me for it, things like that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure people do. I'm sure people have their own thoughts about things that I do, but I do it because it makes me feel good. And
That's all that matters.
I think if I can put myself first and my kids can see that, then they will do that for themselves as well, and they won't feel guilty, and it'll be easier for them to do that. They'll be able to look at it as something that's normal.
Now, I have to tell you guys, get on to Spotify and listen to A Cup of Dri Fitness Thoughts. They're short, wonderful, information-packed little podcasts. I think 6, 9,
Yeah, between
11
like 3 and 10 minutes, it's just my thoughts driving to and from the gym in the morning.
They're good thoughts. Listening to this podcast is really going to help you to think more for yourself, think what you're doing, stop making excuses, and take ownership, but also realizing that if you fail, it's okay. Just start again the next day. And also make sure you follow Adriana on Instagram. Her handle is at cup.of.dri, which is DRI. I love your stories. The stories are amazing.
Thank you.
She gives you a little rundown of little thoughts, little feelings, what she's going to be doing for the day. So it'll kind of give you a little oomph to maybe write it down yourself. And you can realize how much you are doing in a day, and maybe where you can fit in some extra time. And your actual page is wonderful as well. And you can maybe get in touch with her for one-on-one coaching sessions and get this fitness and health journey started.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of YQG in Bloom. My name is Tracy Martins. I hope you guys all have a great day.